and you need to cope with this reality, and the reality is so harsh, and you want to say, to tell the story, to bring this out, this vicious attack. So the next day, I felt that specifically this story of the Nova Festival needs to be heard, because this is such a unique, clear-cut story of good and evil. And then I contacted Yossi, who actually we were supposed to start a new film together on October 8th. And I said, let's do this. Let's start to do this project. We both didn't want to do it because it's such a difficult situation to start and work without any perspective. Also, usually documentary films are done from a perspective of time. It was very emotional. Yossi had his nephew who survived this attack, and we all knew people who got affected by this. And but it was also trying to not to cave in and do something, and that's how we began.
So I'll tackle it from a different way, because we've been answering this question now about 20 times in the last 5 days. When Duki called me and said, let's do a movie about it, I said, no, I don't want to touch this subject. And then we decided, okay, I'll help you with the research, and I started calling friends. And I used to go a lot to parties when I was younger. And I'll skip everything. 5 days later, we're going to the south to meet the producer of the party, which went berserk, insane. The guy was 3 weeks was looking for bodies in the place. He was shot. His car, like the window was broken by a window, and on the way, Duki looks at me and he says, I don't think I want to do this movie. It's too much. I don't want to benefit from these people suffering. And that's like after 5 days that I've been researching and talking to people, and I look at him and I say, I don't care, man. If I do this movie for nothing, I gotta tell these people's story. And I think this is the story of this movie, that we started as arrogant, egotistic, full of ego documentaries that are, you know, what I learned from this, the weirdest thing about documentary is that when you finish and you go to festivals, everyone's saying, wow, you did a really good job, it's a great story. It's not our story. It's their story. We're just crafted people who tell it. And I think we learned it from this movie that it was to allow them to speak.
Like telling a Holocaust story, right? It's a story that has to go again and again. There are an infinite number of perspectives, and each one perspective needs to be told. How did you find this particular way into telling their story? Because there are many ways you can tell the story of the Nova Festival and even these particular survivors. How did you find this particular way of structuring it?
So we started by, we basically gathered everything. We did, I think I did about 30 interviews altogether, and we used 7 or 8. But it was pretty obvious from the very beginning that everyone tackled it on a timeline scale. It started at 6:29, what happened? And it doesn't matter, because what you have here is you have a 10-mile by 2-mile field that is occupying 4,200 people, youngsters that are all there to dance and to bring love and peace and understanding. And they're surrounded by 1,500 terrorists that are coming to kill them. And this whole thing is just lost in space. The IDF cannot go in because they don't know who to shoot. You cannot help them. They're calling one of my best friends with sending points, like where to come and rescue them. He has 900 points that he was sent on this day. And what can he do? You know, there's nobody to come and rescue them. These people are kind of lost in space. And the only way to get out of this triangle is to get to the corners, but nobody knows where the corners are. And I think this is what this movie was trying to capture, and it's just in retrospect. The fact that you're in a space and an event that doesn't make sense, and you don't need to make sense, you just need to get out, and what do?
So I know this is a question you get asked a lot, but I think it's an important one to address, which is you don't show a lot of the atrocities that were happening. We get it filtered through the perspective of the survivors, and so we see things through a door. Or how did you make that decision? Because I know you struggled with it.
Yes, we wanted this film to be watchable. I mean, I think that the amount of atrocities that we had to view during the editing of this film and during the putting it together was completely, we needed therapy for this because it's really, it's just unbelievable the level of dehumanizing that you see. But we thought that it's really important that people can watch it. It's not like to put the horror in them, but rather to humanize the people who went through it, who survived it to tell the story. And of course there are quite a lot of terrible visuals that we included. We tried to soften it, but it was, for the purpose that it will get as wide as audience as possible, first of all, and that people will be drawn to the personal stories.
Are there ethical issues in using the Hamas footage, the footage that they've shot with GoPros?
Ethical in what sense?
When should we, to show their perspective, use something that they may have created as a propaganda tool for
right.
themselves?
Well, this is something also. First of all, we put.
Are you giving them voice?
Right. But we identify all these shots which says Hamas footage, and all these spots we used their material. And it was something that we debated and we were thinking about. Are we giving more voice or more eyeballs to watch these atrocities? Maybe that's what terror is all about. It's about to install fear in the heart of people. And for some time we were thinking, oh my God, this is exactly what Hamas would plan. Two filmmakers, Israeli filmmakers, going to do a documentary using their material.
I think it's like we discussed it. I think that someone in Gaza is sitting and saying, "Wow, these two guys are doing our movie." But what I think is that we trust the audience to understand that we're not promoting Hamas materials. We're putting them in context. And the context is you're not freedom fighters. You're people who are shooting someone on the ground, an innocent person.
And in fact, you're not freedom fighters. You are fighters against freedom.
So I have many more questions, but I can hear the audience is ready to jump in. So we have microphones. I think so.
First of all, thank you for doing this film. It's clearly an important subject and it was well done. As documentary filmmakers, what do you see, you just focused on Nova, what do you see as the future for documenting this in film, focusing on attacks on the kibbutzim, political and other military aspects of this? What do you see as the future of filmmaking on this subject?
Well, we hope that there's going to be a lot of movies coming out, and we hope that they will be more harsh than ours, because we didn't just mellow it out, we also ended it with the kids coming back home and all this. But our thought on that, and I think that's the only point we agree, is that we're no longer the real documentaries in this world, because these kids, we didn't shoot anything here. I mean, the interviews, but all the rest is their footage. These kids documented what happening and sent it, like posted it, not just to their father, in the, so for us, it's, we're examining, we want to examine this phenomena. I think the future of news and documenting and the media is with the people. And we're more crafted than they are, but they know what to do, and they know exactly how to do it, and they're doing an excellent job.
I think that what's our job is to frame it in a correct way, how to perceive this, how to understand it, to make it accessible to audience.
Question kindly. Yossi, you are famous for doing a documentary called
Stealing Your Story.
The Devil Next Door, the Holocaust, Treblinka and Sobibor. Were there moments, and we're talking 800,000, 900,000, and were there moments in which you just stopped and said, oh my God, I am seeing parallels here? And what's going on inside of me, because you listened and talked to so many survivors of the camps.
So the weirdest thing is when we finished, we kept screening it to friends and people. When we finished the 52 minutes, the very first draft, I asked your friend Miki Sheket to watch it. And he comes back to me with a manifest of saying, listen, look at the stories you bring. Noam is exactly like Dina Partzikova, who jumped into the bodies in Babi Yar, her father threw her. It's exactly the same story. Racheli is parallel. The girl who's saying Shema Israel, my great-grandfather convinced his congregation to say Shema Israel when they burned the synagogue on them in Warsaw. And I asked him, fine, but it's Miki Sheket, he has an explanation for everything. How do you, he was the prosecutor in Israel. How do you explain that? And he said something really interesting. When pure evil comes out, it looks the same everywhere. And when you look at it, it looks the same in Rwanda, it looks the same in Colombia, and it looks the same in Syria. And that made me understand that what we've seen here is just pure evil. And I think this is why it's similar so much.
How you find the deniers of October 7th, especially with the AI and so many people that denying. I mean, today that everything is just produced by.
Well, we're just starting now to run this film, and it was one of the main reasons for making the film was the denial, and I think as much as as more films like this film, other testimonies will come out. I think this is how we have to fight. We shouldn't really cave to the idea that the deniers of the massacre will win this. I mean, I would be happy also to sit in front of people who deny the massacre and speak with them. I think this is something that either they're ignorant, either they don't really understand fully what really happened, or they're just like taken by some kind of identity politics of some sort. But I think that if you tell this, you tell the truth again and again, it will succeed.
I have one. So, you guys, first of all, congratulations on the film. Second of all, you made this film kind of uncommonly quickly. I know documentaries can sometimes take years to get produced, get financed, get out to people. Was it always your plan to make it this quickly? I know it happened in October, now it's February. Were you always trying to get done very fast, or is this just kind of, hey, you realize you're done?
Yeah, that was the idea, to get it as fast as possible. We teamed the crew really fast. We were able to get a green light from German TV quite early, and we also, I think it took several months until we get some money in, but it was really, everybody was completely directed to do the film and get it out as soon as possible because of the denial, because of what's going on out. And it's not the normal way of us producing or making documentaries, but this is a different situation. So it called us to do it this way. I mean, it was very difficult, a very strange way. We became like documentarians, but also working in a kind of a news beat of gathering material, having a bigger staff to get this ready for editing. This is not the usual way that we're working.
And also, it was very obvious after a few weeks that we, by mistake, because we had to do it fast, to start it fast. By mistake, we managed to film everyone when they were traumatized, and it never happens on documentaries, because you look back 20, 30 years, and when we were editing, I was telling Duki that, and he said, "And what do you think you are?" And it dawned on us that we were traumatized, the entire country was traumatized, and that's the strength of this movie.
Did you already say this? It was only a few days after October 7th that you started the interview.
Yeah, the first shooting day was 5 days, and most of the interviews here are on the day 9 and 10.
That was amazing, I have to tell you. This is not a question, but an observation and comment. The fact that they were allowed to have the festival so close to the border, the fact that there was only one road, that in an emergency, only one road to get out, the fact that there was no army there for protection just in case. But then when the security guard said, "We didn't even know there was a festival," that just blew my mind.
Well, two things. One, it would have, if the party was not there, they would have been in Tel Aviv an hour afterwards. So Israel is small, and it's not a security guard. It's a policeman that was at home with his wife and 4 kids, And when he figured out what's going on, he put them in a shelter. He told her to lock the door from the inside, and he went out to look how can he help. And on the radio, they told him, "Come in here. We need to bring out the wounded people." He didn't know about the party. He knew there's wounded people, and it wasn't his job. Okay?
No. You're misunderstanding everything I said. My point is, did the police in the region know? He gave me the impression that the police in the region didn't even know.
No, they were there.
He was off duty.
The police was there, actually. They had security there.
Okay.
When you were faced with, I don't know, 1,500 terrorists.
With machine guns, and policemen are with short guns, and they had no chance to. So, and the other thing is, why would you think that the strongest bands in the world, with all this American technology and Israeli technology and all this thing, why would you think that they can break it down with basically kites? They threw a grenade off a kite and shut down the whole system.
This is true. Thank you.
Hello, hi. With everything that's happened at Penn recently, can you tell us how the screening went today?
Yeah, so we just came from a screening of the film at university, and it was a very enthusiastic. I mean, it was an audience that was very receptive, that wanted to hear the story. There was no. We were hoping more people would come who weren't already supportive of Israel, there were no questions, there were no protests.
No protests.
No, but can you be more specific about who did come and what were their questions? We're talking about students who have felt the brunt of October 7th within 10 days when anti-Semitism rose in Philadelphia and on the college campuses. So what were their questions? What were their responses?
How did you feel about the responses from the Penn audience?
Well, I think there's a big curiosity of how do you handle this story, how do you handle the feelings and what's like the trauma, because we were there with one of the survivors, and we're taking a toll of this. So how do you handle the trauma, and how do you create, like what's the narrative you create out of it? And I think we all agree on stage, especially there, that the narrative is we need to fight anti-Semitism and we need to fight evil, but we need to think good and we need to believe that we'll succeed and we'll win and that love will conquer all. This is what we're trying to say.
I have a question. I'm not sure of the question I really want to ask because there's so many. I'm just curious, having had the painful privilege of observing, studying, watching the atrocities that you mentioned, and Israeli, all of us in this room, I'm sure we're not Israeli, how would you, and not so much about the film, but from your heart, as fellow human beings, but as Israelis who had this opportunity, I don't mean to stir controversy, but I'm just curious about your response to the war, and what your thoughts and opinions may be, and what those are, those of Israelis in general, if there is such a generality, maybe, in response to these horrific atrocities in number and extent. I'd like to hear, especially in response to what you just said about fighting anti-Semitism, because the war is global as well as unique to Gaza and Hamas, these things.
So if I understand, is your question is how do we view the war in Gaza? How do we view the 30,000 killed in Gaza? That's
I'm not sure. Again, we're all right. Just curious. Yes, indeed. And how you view it, what your opinion is, how you reconcile with all, given all the phenomena, all the dimensions of all this.
Well, I think it's, of course, it's unfortunate what happened in Gaza, and we can speak about it for hours and hours and hours. There's so much context to this. It depends where you start, and there's, anything that I would say it would be too short of an answer. But I think that Israelis in general now feel that, and I feel too, I feel that the main word is it's one word: accountability. So there's no demand for accountability from Hamas, from the leaders of the Palestinians freedom movement, whatever, and this is something that needs to be answered. Where's the accountability? And it's always like that. It's always been, oh, it's okay. There are, Arabs, poor people. They have nothing to do with accountability. We have to protect them. No. If you want to protect people, then you have to also demand accountability.
I'll answer it as well. I look at it as an American, not as an Israeli. Mark Twain once said, you can never go wrong when you're doing the right thing. And it drove me crazy for years, but how do you know what's the right thing? And looking at that, you know what's the right thing. Wars will always happen, and atrocities will always happen, and things will always happen in the world. But you know what's wrong and right. You know that rape is not right. And especially when you spend most of your day reading the Quran, you know that it's not right because it's written there that you're not allowed to do it. And I think this is what we have to ask everyone that is part of this war. And for someone like me that, I did all this, and no, there's kids that are in Gaza and they need to hold a gun because they cannot sit with a camera at home. They need to hold a gun. And they need to ask themselves, are they doing the right thing? And I think that most of the Israeli army, and I think 99%, is doing the right thing. They will not kill women, innocent women. They will not kill kids. And to be honest, I think that a lot of the Palestinians will do the right thing. But you have to ask yourself, are you doing the right thing, or are you doing an atrocity?
Did you have the opportunity to interview anybody from the soldiers who were fighting from the other side during the time? No?
No, and I personally wouldn't want that. I don't think this, you would want to interview someone like that to get an explanation why they did that, and I will not buy any explanation. You're talking about Hamas soldiers?
No, I'm talking about Israeli soldiers who were trying to get in during the 10 hours where the victims were trapped.
We cannot get the official answer. I heard they couldn't go in. I know the answer from the guy, the liaison from the police army there, and it's so simple. They couldn't go in because they couldn't know who's Hamas and who's not, and they couldn't take the risk that they will shoot Israelis. So they were waiting for some intelligence. They were waiting. They said they were waiting for their eyes. They didn't have eyes on the
it just felt like a perspective in the story. You had many perspectives, but that one was not available.
we didn't look for it.
We also we had to, of course, rush things, and actually the father Ilan, we added him to the story. Also the policeman, we added both of them later on when the film was on the first, second rough cut. So we thought, okay, let's give another point of view, but we really had to rush the making of this.
Yeah, with the war in the Ukraine and the talk about our southern border, is there, and with the far wings of both parties showing some resistance, is there any chance of showing this to Congress, a special screening?
I was on a Zoom yesterday, I think, with someone from the Hill that says that they're gonna manage to get a screening. So yes, we're trying.
A little echo to the eloquence of the opening remarks that spoke about Elie Wiesel and that being killed twice.
We can't hear you, sorry.
And it echoes to the eloquence of Elie Wiesel in the beginning, talking about saying how the twice. For me, it feels a bit like there's adding insult to injury. It's too light a way of saying it, but the trauma, which you made very visceral and powerful, is the start, and now it's been exacerbated by the response around the world. And part of me wants to respond to what you said about the. This is ironic and a bad turn of phrase, but the idea of speaking to the choir or singing to the choir. We have an audience mostly, and I think that's what happened at Penn today, and I imagine is true all over. This piggybacks on the Congress thing. More people who aren't already bought in. We don't need affirmation, we need a broader sentiment. Because when I hear the idea of people saying this didn't happen, it was all staged, the Israelis killed them. I mean, if you scroll down comments on Instagram, you could go into despair that you can't move from. And this needs to be seen more broadly. I don't know what strategy you might have to have a broader audience. Congress is one, but there's many in population. What are your thoughts or possibilities for strategies?
Well, the film was acquired in 40 territories worldwide, so it has been already seen by millions, and it's going to be seen by more millions.
Building on the question of broadly distributing the story, I was in Israel in December volunteering, but my cousin took me to the Tel Aviv Expo, where there was an on-site physical exhibition of what happened with some of the cars and some of the portable bathrooms and the stages and pictures. And my question is, with the efforts that you've made, certainly with the federations, is there a way that you know of to couple what you've done with packaging that exhibit and taking it overseas?
Well, if there's anyone who would want to take it, I would love to. I mean, we're both filmmakers, and we most of our work is editing, filming, and trying to get money for it, raise money. Maybe this is more time than anything else is raising funds. But anyone, we were really open to any kind of collaboration or packaging, as you call it, that can bring it out and show it to more people as possible.
Something we've seen is art has been really important to processing the trauma from the very beginning. It started in a way with the Shabbat table that was set in Tel Aviv, and that grew into Hostage Square, but also stimulated similar projects around the world. How do you see filmmaking? I mean, you're telling a story. It's partly still on the side of journalism because there isn't enough space and distance, but you're still creating art. How do you see it as part of helping people emotionally as well as in terms of information?
I think for me it has nothing to do with journalism, and it's like I explained here that we broke the timeline completely. I mean, if you look here in the movie, the shelter happened 2 hours before the tank, but it couldn't be that in the movie. We're doing art or we're doing media, and the way I see it today is that in a sense we're doing a little bit group therapy, but on a huge scale. We're hoping that it's going to be really, really big. Not just us, I mean anyone who will do this thing. If there will be a better movie, then please. I think it should be, and again, I don't see it as an Israeli thing. It should be something that inspiring and moving people to action, moving people to understanding, moving people to a better place. And it has, and in this way, it's art, and it has nothing to do with journalism. We're not, normally on our job, we're not committed to journalism or to the truth or anything. Here we wouldn't, like we were strict that every story must be validated, and there was a great shot of the kids escaping, but it was shot by Hamas in a way that we couldn't use it and we took it out. So, but normally it's art, it's media.
Storytelling.
Okay, so I mean, maybe there's time for one or
We
two
have,
more
yeah,
questions.
one more question.
A question and a comment. What movie were you going to make on October 8th? And the second one is, what would you like to be making moving forward? I would suggest that you're focused on the trauma of that day. There's a real story, and I don't agree with you that the reason why the Israeli army did not come in is they didn't know who were the terrorists. In the movie, it's very clear who the terrorists were. The reason they did not come in is because the Israeli army was just not ready for it. And when you're saying that they didn't expect it, there were intelligence reports about it. So when those people were saying, where's the army, where's the police, that adds to the trauma. I'm not suggesting that there's a moral equivalence, but what I'm suggesting is the trauma they had, one of the best ways to deal with it, so it's not a post-traumatic event, it's a post-growth event, is to really assume that you are going to make a difference. And what needs to happen in Israel right now is an accountability of why the army was not there. An accountability of why they let those Kibbutzim stay without meaningful protection, and why 30 Yudim were moved to the West Bank. That is going to be the best anti-trauma events that can happen moving forward. And to my knowledge, and I think it's wonderful, there's quite a lot of Israelis that are doing it. And I'm hoping that rather than just saying, well, the army didn't know, there might have been one helicopter pilot who was afraid to shoot, but the whole army was not there. And that was even more traumatic. And what someone said about the Holocaust, there was no one to protect us. Israel was established to protect us.
So I'll answer if I learned anything here in the States is to focus on my job and not do other people's job. And I'm a documentarist, and my job is not to criticize the army, it's to ask questions, and if they criticize, like if my questions criticize someone or make someone think, good, maybe, but I'll answer the question of the next movie, and I have the proof here. The guy that my last movie, my last series was he was there, And when it was finished, he asked me the same question, and my answer was exactly like mine today. The next movie is going to be a happy movie. It's going to be a movie about music. So I didn't.
I unfortunately have, I don't know if unfortunately, but I'm involved in documentary series that I started 2 years ago about hostage negotiations. And now, you know, now it's all opened up, and you know, of course, this is like a major event. Negotiations, you know, doesn't go very well, but I think after looking at all these cases of negotiations, you know, when it happened, October 7th happened, we had all the hostages taken. I already had the idea of it's going to take a long time. It's not going to be so easy. And, you know, all these stages of hell we'll have to go through. And of course, it became very, very political. And that's the sad story of this. Used politically the story of the hostages and by Netanyahu. But it's, yeah, that's what I have to do. I have to finish this.
Yossi, thank you both for coming and for being here.